Why is the help sitting at our table? My stepmother's voice cut through the Christmas dinner chatter. 12 guests turned to look at me. She smiled. That sharp, practiced smile she wore when she wanted to seem generous. I mean, we're happy to have you, sweetie. But the staff usually eats in the kitchen. I opened my mouth to respond. Then her boss walked in. Margaret Chen, Chief Executive Officer of Vertice Technologies, a woman I'd known for 3 years. She locked eyes with me. Oh my God, is that you? She crossed the room, hand extended, beaming. My stepmother's face went blank. Margaret shook my hand warmly. I didn't know you'd be here. How's the portfolio performing? The room went dead silent. How did I end up being mistaken for hired staff at my own father's table? And how was I about to flip this entire dinner on its head? Before we get into that, do me a favor. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? What time is it there? And if you're already hooked, hit that like button. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. I had the receipts to prove exactly who I was, and she was about to find out. Let me back up. My dad remarried when I was 12. Her name was Diane. She never called me by my name. It was always your kid when she talked to my dad, or she when I was in the room. At family dinners, she'd introduce her friends to everyone except me. If I spoke, she'd talk over me. If I achieved something, she forgot to mention it. When I won a state science fair at 14, she told extended family I got a participation ribbon for a school thing. I stopped trying to correct her. I left for college at 16 on an early admission scholarship. I worked 3 jobs: campus library, weekend coding gigs, research assistant. I graduated in 3 years. I met a woman named Dr. Patel, a professor who'd built 2 companies and sold them. She taught me venture capital, she taught me diligence, and she taught me something crucial. Paper beats memory. I started saving everything. Every email where Diane forgot to invite me to a wedding. Every group chat I was quietly removed from. Every text where she told relatives I was too busy, when really, I was never asked. I built a folder, years of documentation. I didn't know if I'd ever need it. I just knew I wanted the truth recorded somewhere. I hadn't seen my dad or Diane in 3 years. We'd drifted, or more accurately, I'd been erased. Then, 2 weeks before Christmas, my dad called. Diane really wants you to come home for the holidays. It would mean a lot. His voice sounded tired. I should have asked why. I should have known she had a reason. But I wanted to believe my father missed me, so I said yes. I arrived Christmas Eve. Diane barely looked at me. Oh, you came. Well, we're hosting a dinner tomorrow. Try to look presentable. No hug. No, how was your flight? The next night, the house was full. Diane worked in operations at a mid-sized tech firm. She'd invited her entire team, including her boss, Margaret. Diane was up for a vice president promotion. I didn't know that yet. She seated me at the far end of the table, near the kitchen door. Everyone else got name cards. I didn't. When Margaret arrived, Diane was all charm. Margaret, so glad you could make it. Let me introduce you to everyone. She went around the table. Her college friend, her yoga instructor, her husband, my dad. She skipped me. Then she circled back. Oh, and this is my husband's daughter. She's been struggling a bit, but we're helping out. I blinked. Struggling? Margaret smiled politely. She didn't recognize me yet. The lighting was dim and I was out of context. Then Diane turned to me. Sweetie, would you mind refreshing drinks? And maybe clearing these appetizer plates? She tilted her head. You don't mind, do you? You're used to service work. The table went quiet. I felt my chest tighten. My dad looked down at his plate. Didn't say a word. I stood up slowly. I was about to excuse myself, walk out, let her win. Again. Then Margaret walked closer, squinting in the candlelight. And everything changed. Before I could speak, Diane intercepted her. She stepped between us, put a hand on Margaret's arm and leaned in close. I caught fragments. Charity case. Don't embarrass her. We're trying to help, but she's proud. Margaret glanced at me, confused, sympathetic. Diane steered her toward the far side of the room. Then, loudly enough for everyone to hear, she said, If you're looking for work, Margaret's company hires entry-level all the time. I could put in a word. She looked at me with that smile again. A few guests laughed nervously. Someone whispered, That's sweet of her. I stood there, frozen. Heat crawled up my neck. For a second I thought about just leaving, walking out the door, letting her have this, letting her rewrite me one more time. I'd lost so many battles by staying silent. Maybe this was just one more. But then I remembered something Dr. Patel told me. The truth doesn't need you to shout. It just needs you to show up. I had my phone in my pocket, and I had the truth. Margaret stepped away from Diane and walked toward me. She looked at me more carefully now. The light hit my face. Her eyes widened, and then she smiled. Actually, she said, we've met. Margaret crossed the room, extended her hand. Good to see you again. How's the portfolio performing? Diane's smile cracked. I shook Margaret's hand. Very well. Thanks for asking. Margaret turned to the table. You didn't mention your stepdaughter is one of our anchor investors. Silence. Diane's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I pulled out my phone, opened LinkedIn, passed it to the woman next to me. She read it. Her eyes went wide. She passed it to the next person. It made its way around the table. My title, Senior Vice President at Catalyst Ventures, 8-figure portfolio under management, board member at 3 tech firms. One of them was Vertice Technologies, Margaret's company. The guest across from Diane looked up at her. You didn't say she works in venture capital. Diane forced a laugh. Oh, anyone can edit a LinkedIn profile. She's always been creative with the truth. She looked at Margaret. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. She probably met you at some networking event and exaggerated. She turned to me. Her voice went sharp. Stop embarrassing yourself. Stop embarrassing your father. She grabbed my phone from the guest's hand, tried to hand it back to me. We'll talk about this privately. Margaret's expression changed. She wasn't confused anymore. She was angry. Margaret set down her wine glass. Carefully. She looked at Diane. I think there's been a real misunderstanding. Diane started to speak. Margaret raised a hand. Your stepdaughter led the Series B funding round that saved our company 2 years ago. She let that sink in. We've had quarterly investor calls ever since. I brief my senior team on our cap table every quarter. She paused. Including you. Diane went pale. Margaret pulled out her phone, opened her email, turned the screen toward the table. This is from last month. Q4 board review. Investor list. She scrolled. Catalyst Ventures. Right here. My name at the top. Margaret's name in the CC line. Subject line. Q4 board review. Catalyst Ventures. Timestamp. Corporate logo. Board of directors copied. Undeniable. One of the guests whispered, Oh my God. Diane's hand shook. She set down her glass. I didn't realize... Margaret's voice was ice. You've worked on my team for 11 months. You've sat in meetings where we discussed our investors. You told me you had no conflicts of interest when you joined. Diane stammered. I didn't think... We're not close. I didn't think it mattered. Margaret looked at her for a long moment. It matters. The room was completely silent. My dad finally looked up. His face was gray. I could see Diane doing the math. She'd just publicly humiliated the woman who held a board seat at her boss's company, the woman whose fund kept her company alive, and she'd done it in front of a room full of witnesses, including her boss. The guests started to leave. Awkward goodbyes. No one looked at Diane. Margaret stayed for a moment. She pulled me aside. I'm sorry. I had no idea she was... She trailed off. It's fine, I said. I'm used to it. Margaret frowned. It's not fine. And for the record, you've been one of our most diligent investors. You ask the right questions. You've never asked for favors. She glanced back at Diane, who was cleaning up in silence. I'll be filing an internal report. She didn't disclose a conflict of interest. That's a governance issue. I nodded. Margaret left. The house emptied. It was just me, my dad, and Diane. She wouldn't look at me. My dad poured himself another glass of wine. He'd had too much already. She didn't want you here, he said quietly. Diane's head snapped up. Don't, but he kept going. She told me you'd make her look small. His voice was slurred, tired. She's up for VP, needed tonight to go perfectly. Needed Margaret to see her as in control. He laughed bitterly. Guess that didn't work out. I stared at him. You knew? He didn't answer. I looked at Diane, and I finally understood. It was never about me. It was about her image. She needed someone beneath her, and I was supposed to play that role. I went to the guest room, pulled out my laptop, opened my files. I found the text my dad had sent 2 weeks earlier. She really wants you there. It would mean a lot. I screenshot it. Then I opened my work email. I drafted a message to my firm's managing partner and our board liaison. Subject line, conflict of interest, family tie to portfolio company. I kept it professional, outlined the situation, explained that my stepmother worked at a portfolio company and had failed to disclose our relationship to her employer, noted that this created a potential governance issue, requested a formal review and a recommended recusal protocol. I wasn't trying to get her fired. I was protecting my fiduciary duty, and I was setting a boundary she could never cross again. I read it over 3 times, changed a few words, made it calmer, clearer, no emotion. Just facts. I attached Margaret's email chain as documentation. Then I hovered over the send button. For just a moment I hesitated. Was this too much? Was I being vindictive? Then I remembered the look on Diane's face when she called me the help. I remembered my dad's silence. I remembered every time I'd been erased, every time I'd stayed quiet to keep the peace. I thought about Dr. Patel's words. Boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary. I hit send. Then I went back downstairs. Diane was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. My dad had gone to bed. I sat in the chair across from her. She didn't look at me. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Do what? Humiliate me in front of my boss. I almost laughed. I didn't humiliate you. I just existed. She looked up then. Her eyes were red. You've always been vindictive. I stood up. No, I've always been quiet. And you mistook that for weakness? I walked to the door, stopped, turned back. I sent an email tonight, to my firm, requesting a formal review of potential conflicts of interest. Her face went white. You what? You didn't disclose our relationship to your company. That's a governance issue. My firm takes that seriously. You're going to get me fired. I shook my head. I'm going to let the process work. If you did nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about. She stood up. I have a career. I have a life. You can't just... I have a career too, I said, and I've worked very hard to build it. You tried to destroy it in one night to make yourself look good. I opened the door. I'm leaving in the morning. Don't contact me again. I went upstairs. I didn't sleep much, but I didn't regret it. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd told the truth and let the chips fall. 3 days later, Margaret called me. I want to apologize again. I had no idea the situation was that hostile. It's okay, I said. It's not, and I want you to know. We're conducting an internal review. Your stepmother's failure to disclose a family relationship with a board-level investor is a serious governance violation. She paused. I can't share details, but I wanted you to know we're taking it seriously. I thanked her. A week later, I got a call from my board liaison at Catalyst. We've reviewed your conflict disclosure. We're recommending you recuse yourself from day-to-day oversight of Vertice, but remain on record as the investor of record. Mind. That's fine, I said. Vertice's HR department has also reached out. They've concluded their internal review. And your stepmother has been reassigned to a lateral role. No VP promotion. No client contact. No investor relations. I didn't say anything. They thanked us for bringing it to their attention. Apparently, this wasn't the first time she'd misrepresented facts to leadership. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not triumph, just relief. The Q1 board meeting happened over Zoom. I joined from my apartment. Margaret was there. 3 other board members, Vertice's CFO. Diane wasn't in the room. Margaret opened the meeting. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the conflict of interest issue we addressed last quarter. It's been resolved. We've updated our disclosure protocols. She looked at me through the screen. And I want to thank you for your professionalism and integrity throughout. The other board members nodded. No drama, no spectacle, just process. After the meeting, my dad sent an email. She's furious. She blames you for everything. I stared at it for a long time. Then I wrote back. She blamed me long before this. Now there's just a paper trail. I didn't hear from him again for 6 months. It was over. Not with a bang, with paperwork. Exactly the way it should be. Diane kept her job, but she lost her upward trajectory. Margaret later told me the internal review had opened a larger audit. Diane had misrepresented other facts too. Small things, credentials, project ownership, credit for other people's work, the kind of things that add up. She stayed at Vertice for another year, then left quietly. I don't know where she is now, and I don't need to. My dad and I talk once a month now, supervised, boundaried. He started therapy about 6 months after that Christmas. He told me he stayed silent for so long because he didn't want conflict. I told him silence is a choice, and it has consequences too. I didn't cut him off. But I don't go home for holidays. I spend them with my chosen family now. My team, my mentors. The founders I've backed who became friends. People who see me. That year, I had a strong return on my portfolio. I donated part of it to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students who've been erased or underestimated by their families. I named it after my mom. She passed when I was 11. I think she would have liked that. Diane sent one email after the scholarship announcement went public. "You've always been vindictive." I didn't reply. My lawyer saved it just in case, but I don't think I'll need it. She knows now. I'm not the help. I'm not small, and I keep receipts. Here's what I learned. You don't have to win loudly. You just have to stand in your truth and let the systems that value integrity do their work. Boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary. And sometimes the best revenge is just being exactly who you are. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just my story, fictionalized and dramatized for privacy. But the lesson is real. Document everything. Protect your peace. And never let someone else write your story. So here's my question for you. What would you have done? Would you have stayed quiet to keep the peace? Or would you have let the truth come out? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. There's more where this came from. Stories about boundaries, justice, standing up when it costs something. Until next time, stay sharp, stay kind, and always, always keep your receipts.